Gordon, how are you doing?
Hayden, very, very good to see you.
Absolutely good to see you too. Um, as I was saying before, I'm really excited about this episode. Um, one topic and one topic only, and I think it's something that you're super passionate about, and is reputation. So for me, I think reputation, as I think about it, and because we're in such a relationship based business model in recruitment, that reputation is probably the starting point and the final point of it all. Um, for me, I keep coming back to the thought that it is like the most important part of any business model. And I don't know if you would agree with me on that.
I've been I was brainwashed many, many years ago into becoming reputation obsessed, and so I utterly agree with you. I think it can be an utter game changer, differentiator, and if we can get it right, then that can be the path to glory and happiness.
I love
Definitely.
it. So, first question then, um, for you, what is reputation?
So, in simple terms, and Hayden, you and I go back a long, long way. I'm a simple man. Reputation is just simply how people think and feel about you. But it's really important the bit about feeling that sort of emotional connection that people have with you, and it is a result of the experiences I've had. Okay, so it's not what I'm promising you, not what I'm talking about or marketing out to you. This is an output of the interactions and experiences that I have with you, whether that's digital, human, face to face, whatever.
And is that something that you build over time? Do you start on a level playing field with your reputation from nothing?
Yeah, and it's probably worth you. I might just tell you why I got so excited about reputation back in the day.
Perfect. Perfect.
Um, it came from me, as you know, I'm not a recruiter, um, but it came from me from my first business, which was a fifth generation family businesses, and we were okay, we were good without being brilliant, and we started looking at ourselves and looking at the market and saying, listen, in what way can we differentiate ourselves? And a little bit like recruitment, and we were what was known as wholesale grocers. So we were food delivery world, trucks and warehouses, not very sexy. And we couldn't. We concluded that the most exciting and most rewarding journey we could go on was one where we could get a better reputation than everybody else. And there wasn't much else. And again, when it comes to recruitment, we'll talk about more about recruitment and what I've observed on that. But there are 101 different ways in which you can stand out in the market. And if you can get the reputation piece right, which influences behaviors and therefore relationships and spend, then happy days. So we went on a journey and we decided to do it properly. And we probably had about two or 300 people at the time. Rather than just looking at other food service delivery people, wholesale grocers, we went to a guy who'd run the Taj hotels in India, five-star exquisite hotels, and we said to him, I want you to come into our business and help us understand how we can build the ultimate reputation. And he was a very, very clever man, and luckily enough, he agreed. And we went on a journey with him where we shifted, and the journey we went on was shifting. We went on a bit of a cultural evolution, and then we evolved our experiences that ultimately built our reputation. And as a result of getting that reputation right, and this was over a 10-year period, we attracted better talent than ever would have considered joining us before. We attracted clients and customers that came to us because of our reputation. And ultimately, when we sold the business, we got the shareholders got additional value because of the reputation. So some of these things that are slightly less tangible, but I'll show you how they can be more tangible. We sold our business for a lot more because of the reputation that we built, because that is worth a lot. So for me, if I take that into recruitment, and I've been client side, I've been a HR director back in the day working with recruiters. Ultimately, the reputation, how I think and feel about the recruiters I work with, the experiences I have with them, is going to drive my behaviors. And if you look at the world of retail, they will always talk about people making decisions emotionally and then justifying them rationally. So reputation is an emotional strategy. How can I connect emotionally with the people who have experiences with me?
Perfect. And I think emotion is such a powerful thing, isn't it? When it becomes to not only marketing, but selling, the way someone feels about you.
Yeah, it
I'll
might
touch on,
it might be worth
sorry,
just saying, I fall out with no, I don't fall out with marketing people, but that big debate, and I have it quite regularly because it just intellectually stimulates me. Is what's the difference between brand and reputation, and which one would you rather have? Okay, and you could, I've had a lot of debate. You could argue that they're the same thing. I don't think they are. I think marketing contributes to the reputation by some of the experiences and the content and the way we add value to people's thinking. But equally, marketing can, depending on how it's done, can lead to overpromising, which leads to potentially under-delivering, which is one of the golden rules that we never break. So reputation is the result of the experiences I have with your business, whatever, whether it's around the marketing interactions, the sales interactions, the delivery interactions, the ongoing relationship interactions. It is those real experiences, digital or human, that affect your reputation.
love it. So do you think marketing has a strong role to play in terms of not only building reputation, but making sure it does not falter?
Massive, massive. And there's an end-to-end journey that we need to map out to really understand how we connect and break down any silos that exist between marketing and sales and delivery, which quite often happens. So
So
marketing absolutely massive, and even more than ever, if I'm really honest. Back in the day when we went on our first journey, the way that marketing and sales are so intertwined wasn't quite the case, because it was the world of digital marketing is very much sales as well.
perfect. Yeah, I think with marketing and sales and the intertwinement, it's the notion is becoming these are not so much siloed departments anymore, but it's all just part of revenue, isn't it? Bringing
Yeah.
in bottom line of the business. I'll touch on something you mentioned earlier, that you went to a chain of restaurants in India, 5-star, to look at that. Is that something the agency should think about doing? Not going to an Indian 5-star chain, but looking at other agencies that are doing a great job, or looking at other sectors. Is there benefit in looking outside your own sort of sphere of influence and seeing what others are doing great and trying to sort of take some pointers?
Yeah, because as business leaders, or as businesses, we all sit in a box. Our business is our box. We spend all our time working. We've got to get out of that box, and getting out of that box, which is why we set up TRN Recruitment Network. Because if you talk to other people, you'll see different ways of doing things. And with the very best of our members, I'm saying, stop looking at recruitment, look at different industries. And why wouldn't everybody want to look at a 5-star hotel, let's use that example, to understand how do they manage the guest experience, and what can we learn about that as a B2B professional service recruitment business? I don't know why you wouldn't do it.
Do you feel like the hospitality sector is something that is leading the way in terms of reputation management?
Some of the best are, but there's average and poor as well. And some of the work I did after we sold our business was, I've got award-winning businesses in the veterinary world, insurance, in recruitment, in pubs, in sort of other professional services. Lots of areas where the simple approach saying, can you build a reputation that drives revenues and profitability, and are you prepared, or are you willing to really go hell for leather and make that your obsession? And you can, but you've got to. The business has got to decide as a business: do we want that? Do we understand the return we can get if we nail our reputation? And most people can't articulate the return on investment for going down this reputation-led approach. But if you think about it, if I can get all the returns of retention, referrals, cross-selling opportunities, relationships, less price focus on the price, then you'll make money. And there's a book that totally blew my mind away, was called The Service Profit Chain. It's been around forever. It is the simplest of principles. Look after your team, give them a great experience. Then you've got an option of looking after your customers and giving them a great experience. And guess what? The money follows. And there's lots of research, and you can create numbers that'll justify this in your mind. So that needs to be the starting point for me. Anyone that really wants to go down the reputation route, you've got to make a conscious decision and justify it to yourself.
So I really do want to touch on the sort of, you mentioned earlier, the end-to-end process of what building reputation looks like. But how do you initially start off by auditing your reputation and figuring out where you sit at the moment in the market and what it is?
So a couple of things. You need to work out what success would look like. So let's look at recruitment. So clearly, if you have built an amazing reputation, your retention, your client retention, your candidate loyalty will be very high. You will also, if you give an amazing experience and your reputation is strong, you will get internal and external referrals. So the people you're talking to, that you're giving this amazing experience to, who fundamentally have an emotional connection to you because of how reputation they think about you, they will, if they're asked, we'll come back to that, they will give you internal referrals within an organization, and they will introduce you to connections. So there's retention, there's cross-selling opportunities that will come your way. You can measure it through your relationships. So what type of relationship, are my clients willing to give me exclusivity or retained opportunities because they trust me? And also in terms of margin sensitivity. I had a pretty big budget to spend on recruitment fees when I was a FTSE HR director. And I would insist, because of my emotional connection with my favorite recruiters, that they would be getting a gig without being stupid on the pricing and being competitive, but I was less sensitive to their pricing because of their reputation they had with me. So there's lots of that, and then the other bit, which is a key gap, is obviously your feedback strategy and observation. And I've worked with lots of industries about how to build an amazing customer experience and reputation. Is too many recruitment agencies have not really understood the feedback. The concept of feedback. I don't know how you can get better. I don't know how you can truly get better unless you're getting feedback from as many clients and as many candidates as you can. So you've got to get this feedback, and you take this feedback and you feed it back into the system. And I'll give you a quick story, an example. That I was asked probably about 5 years ago now to help an American SaaS business set up in Europe. The CEO of that knew me pretty well, and even though we just launched TRN, I said I helped him out as a favor. So, and I said I will only do this if I can work with TRN members. And so I got 3 TRN members, and I said, listen, we need to recruit about 70 people in the next couple of years. There's good fees, good opportunity. I'm going to work with you guys. So I worked with 3 of them, and all 3 of them, and they're great recruitment businesses. I really rate them. But all 3 of them weren't asking enough questions from a feedback perspective. All 3 of them were doing something different from an experience point of view that they could have learned from each other. And yet, if we're not asking the question, what is it anyone else is doing a little bit differently and better to me, then I don't know how you evolve, etc. So we're not asking enough questions. I always talk about 17 different ways of getting feedback. You don't need to implement 17, but we've got to get feedback. We've got to obsess about getting 100% feedback from our clients and candidates whether they're placed or not placed, that doesn't matter. We've got to get that feedback, because if we don't know how clients and candidates perceive us, that is really dangerous. That must be dangerous, because our relationship with them might be at risk, or they might be in such a bad place that they are negatively. The word of mouth is negative, whether that's digital or face to face. So there is not enough an obsession with feedback. So how many of our clients and candidates, placed or not placed, are we getting feedback, and what is that telling us? That's one of the 3 gaps. If you want to build an amazing reputation, that is one of the 3 gaps you've absolutely got to nail.
That's really interesting, because some of the marketing strategists that I speak to, and it's something that we do as well, is also talking, but using it as an insight and a research sort of aspect. So finding out challenges, pain points, and things like that in terms of the conversation, and then also getting the feedback just adds that another level, because you're probably going to be talking to them anyway if you're trying to get a good strategy going. So actually using it for all three of those tactics can give you like a really nice amount of market mapping, but then also understanding how to improve your product offering. It just seems like the prevailing thing to drive success is literally talking to people after you've worked with them to get the most out of them.
Absolutely. And from a pure marketing point of view, because obviously a lot about me is how operationally can we build the ultimate organization. But so a lot of it, what can we do better that'll build our reputation? But from a marketing point of view, quite often I come across recruiters who are actually really good at the experiences they give, and yet they're still not getting enough feedback. And that feedback is going to give me my Google reviews, it's going to give me my testimonials, my case studies. It's going to allow us to have conversations to take the relationship to the whole next level. So there's absolute gold dust. And if we're rubbish, I'd rather know we're rubbish because I can do something about it.
In terms of the social proof that you've just touched on there, the testimonials, the case studies, what are the good companies doing to get that on a regular basis? And how can, if they can, marketing play a role in achieving getting those?
So I would, quite often marketing might own the whole feedback strategy. Okay. So somebody in the business needs to own the feedback strategy for clients and candidates. So who is that? It doesn't have to be marketing, but they're as good a place as any. So when it comes to that feedback strategy, we've got to be saying, what do we want out of it and how are we going to get it? So there are people who use, something like Recruiter Insider is a fantastic tool. I really like that. That's quite popular for tracking the candidate experience. Other people use SurveyMonkey to track net promoter score. Other people use other electronic things like FIFO. Some pretty cool tools out there. I still ultimately believe, if I'm really honest with you though, that the most powerful technique and skill set and obsession should be our frontline people, our consultants, our resources, anyone who's talking to a customer, whether that's client or candidate, asking the question. Because if we learn how to ask the question, if we build the confidence and desire and appetite to ask questions, how are we getting on? Yeah. What are we doing that's different and better? Is there anything else that other people are doing that's not quite as good? You will unearth so many nuggets which will feed some of the marketing collateral you can get. And again, the whole concept of timing, I know, a recruiter knows when they've done a great job broadly. So let's reach out and get some feedback. And hey, if we've really done a good job and they give us some great feedback, let's work out what is the most powerful format for that feedback to come in so that we can use it to evidence how damn good we are.
Is it worth getting feedback if the job didn't go so well or you lost the client? Negative feedback?
Massively. Normally the people who give you feedback quite willingly are the ones that love you and the ones that hate you. So absolutely, if I've done something wrong, I need to know about it and I need to feed that back into our machine. Obviously, I'm not going to use that for any marketing, but I do need to feed it back in the machine so we can learn together.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that some of the agencies you work with, they're good at getting the feedback, but then they're not very good at doing anything with it? And if you found that situation, how would you remedy it?
So again, that comes back to the feedback strategy. Like anything, why am I doing things? I'm doing this to get better, and because potentially referrals and case studies and testimonials can be a feeder in the top of my funnel. But fundamentally, just remind me of that question because I went on completely different.
So my kind of thoughts were, I'd imagine you probably come across a lot of agencies that are like,
all right, got it. Yeah. So here's the thing: you've got to close the loop. Yeah, there's no point getting it and doing nothing with it. That's like any feedback, and therefore, the ultimate measure for me, if I go into a business recruitment business, and they tell me they are brilliant at the experience they give and they've got an amazing reputation, it's quite easy really to get under the skin. And the question I will always ask is, show me how you have used the feedback you've got to improve the experience. What have you done with the feedback to improve yourself as a business. If they can answer me, I know they're doing this properly. If not, then there's an opportunity.
So I think maybe, I know there's probably more to reputation than just feedback and testimonials, etc. But how do you know? I mean, how do you coax the truth out of a client? Sometimes you may just get, yeah, you did a great job, no complaints, but there may be something underlying. You know, what are the strategies you would recommend to get the full picture?
Train your people. So again, it is a skill to ask the right question at the right time, in the right way, and it's a coaching skill. So, you know, if you think about the art of coaching, it's you don't take the first answer you're given, you dig a little deeper. So if somebody says great job, that is absolutely no good to me at all, because I don't know what I've done. So you follow on with, okay, can you be a little bit more specific? What specifically did we do that made you say it was a great job? Yeah. And let's face it, they're busy people. So the timing and the way that we ask the questions to get the feedback, we've got to learn and keep trying it until we get more and more feedback.
Perfect. So from the way I understand it, we're putting in a strategy, figuring out how we can leverage the feedback and the comments from clients to improve our offering and close the loop. We kind of need to coach the people asking for the feedback in terms of getting the truth uncovered. But yeah, I'm sure there's probably more to reputation. Do you want to break down some other things and potentially look at what great looks like within an agency that we worked with, maybe ones that's achieved greatness in terms of their reputation?
Yeah, so there's for me, there's three things that three strategies that you've got to get right if you want to build the reputation. And I've this approach has worked in every industry I've been involved in. Approach number one is about the insights, so which we've touched on. So I won't go any further, but it is not only knowing how we're perceived, getting feedback, it's also understanding expectations. So that's number one. The second one is around the people. Unless you get the right people who give a damn about this and you equip them with the right skill set to be able to do the things they need to do, to give the experiences they need to give, to build your reputation, it's not going to happen. And that starts with leadership. So the people piece is the second strategy. And the third strategy is what's known as customer journey mapping. So it is that end-to-end journey from before I've ever heard of you, which is where marketing comes in. So what are the significant touch points that affect my reputation that I need to manage and excel at? Because if I don't, they're going to impact my reputation. So we go through the awareness touch points, and then we go through the engagement touch points when we start interacting, and then there's the delivery touch points, etc., etc. And every touch point needs to be right, because if you screw up one of them, that's going to have a negative impact on your reputation. So there is like most things, there is a process behind this, and it's a simple process that you need to break down the experience that makes up your reputation. Yeah. Now, I'll give you an example. Let me give you a few examples. So, and I can think of a number of recruiters who've absolutely religiously gone after this and relentlessly, and it always starts from the top. It starts where I have a CEO and a leadership team who've decided that the way that they're going to stand out is going to be better, genuinely better in terms of the experiences they give. So there is probably an organization I would say is probably one of the most customer experience led recruitment businesses that I've come across is Stanton House. They're based London, headquartered in London. They operate out in Asia and the US. I met them probably 6-7 years ago. A guy called Nick Eves, who is utterly, ever since he set up the business 12 years ago, his obsession, and it's part of their vision, is to provide exceptional experiences. Okay, it's a simple statement, but he genuinely believed in it and has lived it ever since. And when Nick and I met 6-7 years ago, I shared to him some of the strategies that I've just shared with you, and it gave him even more structure to his fundamental belief about how he was doing things, and he took it, and he's a smart guy with a brilliant leadership team. So the simple principles that I was sharing, he just absolutely went with them, and he has taken it to a whole new level. And everything he does, he obsesses about feedback. He obsesses about the experience of candidates and clients. Him and his team really think about touch point by touch point. How do we make that an exceptional experience? And they invest in their people so their people can give exceptional experiences. So there's an example, because everything I'm talking about to you about, Haydn, is it's just simple stuff, really. It is really simple stuff. But there are those people that say, yes, it's simple, but I believe it's powerful. And the financial return that you get on getting this stuff right is fairly obvious, and it's fairly powerful. And for those people who are looking for some sort of event down the line, it's a value enhancing from a shareholder point of view.
Love it. Is there a critical time limit to getting your feedback?
Yes, there is. There's really no point going 9 months later and saying, I'd like your feedback. We placed somebody with you back 9 months ago. The rule about getting feedback is you do it as soon as possible after the event, while the memory of the experience is as fresh as it needs to be. Then the feedback you'll get is more relevant, and you're going to get more of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So,
by the way, it's a great. I had a member up in the Midlands. They had about 5 offices focused in the construction space. They decided, I was talking to them, and they worked out that they let slip how much feedback they were getting. So all of their divisional leaders who were responsible for different sectors, they all said, right, in the next quarter, I'm going to literally physically go around to all my top 10 or however many it was clients. I'm going to say, all I want to talk to is all I want to know is feedback. Give me the feedback about the experience we had from you. They picked up a shed load of new opportunities from those visits. So it can lead on to other conversations.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. It's just getting obsessed about it, as you said.
Yeah.
As you said. You mentioned earlier some touch points for the different stages, awareness, etc. Could you give me some examples of what those could look like if someone wanted to implement this as a strategy tomorrow, for example?
Okay, so let's think about the if you're working with a client on an ongoing basis, you're getting multiple opportunity, multiple vacancies. Maybe you've got exclusivity. Hopefully, you're going to do some regular service reviews. At these service reviews, when you're unpacking not only the opportunities moving forward, but also you're going to review a little bit the last quarter or the last 6 months, whatever it is done. I do think the way that we structure these meetings, and this might sound really basic, but let us structure service reviews in a way in which we're asking the right questions, and let us also add value at these meetings. So I remember a guy who worked with me, my favorite recruiter called John Marsh, and he used to come to me for our service reviews, and he used to give me insights into previously placed candidates about how they were feeling about the whole experience since they're joining the company, and where they were from a motivational point of view, because he had a certain relationship with these people, because he'd helped guide them, they were senior roles, into these jobs. And that's a real value add. So he's looking at that at a touch point. How do I take a service review and do it differently and better than everybody else? And he will just keep on looking at how I can innovate it. If you think on the candidate side, for example, there are lots and lots of ways in which we can take a touch point in terms of the candidate relationship and add value. So, for example, in between a candidate accepting an offer while they're working their notice and before they actually go into post, then that is, for me, is a touch point. How do I maintain the experience of that candidate in between offer and starting the job? How can I add value to them, keep them loyal, excited, whether it's to celebrate the role, help them prepare for the role? There are lots of little things you can do. So, but it's just saying this is a touch point that affects how that candidate will think and feel about me. Therefore, I want to manage that. That is a touch point.
One thing that popped into my head as you were talking about the service reviews, for example. Obviously, marketing is probably not going to go manage that, but it's if they do take ownership of reputation and the insights that can improve the product offering and the marketing for a whole, they should go out and talk to the internal team and say, can you get these questions asked for me and bring that back to me so I've got that research and insights. I think it all comes down to mapping out every single stage of not only the customer journey, but sort of any touch points you have with a client or a candidate, and figuring out how you can get insight out of them and then utilize that properly.
Yeah. And the other thing, Haydn, that's very relevant to marketing. I'm currently running a series of workshops with our members, so recruitment business leaders, and I'm asking them about the things that they don't know. So what don't you know that you need to know? One of the things that's coming back a lot is, I'm not sure that we know enough about what our clients are looking for and wanting. So surely it is the role of marketing to bring the insights about what clients and candidates are fundamentally looking for. Because if we do that, we can feed that back into the company and we can start doing things a little bit differently. So that insights piece is really interesting to me. And every time, we do a lot of work at TRN thinking about what will the most progressive companies be doing down the line. So let's say out of that is going to come the strategic, what is happening that employers should be thinking about from a strategic point of view. How much do they know about ED&I? How much do they know about workforce planning in the business? How much do they know about AI? There's lots of questions that we can ask how much do they know about building an employer brand? If marketing is about finding out, as well as building brand, is about finding out what we need to do to be as good as we want to be, then they should also be shaping some of the questions and some of the that we're asking. Because I see it time and time again, we've got some members absolutely smashing it because they have gone down a route which is satisfying a market need about something to do with talent, whatever it is, whether it's ED&I or whether it's about workforce planning or whatever, whether it's about hybrid work, whatever it's about, the stuff our clients need to know and understand. So why can't we educate them a little bit more about it? But to do that properly, we need to know what they don't know.
Absolutely.
And then we can, for example, when we're trying to warm up cold clients, we can send them value adds which are relevant to what most people need to be knowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in our industry, the barrier to entry in terms of like business development and selling online is just so low that if you can provide some kind of inherent value that just really touches on a critical pain point, then you're just in a much better position. In the recruitment network, you guys have done a fantastic job at building a community, and it's great to see. How much of reputation obsession played a role in your success?
Massive. Most new members come through a recommendation from a fellow member or one of our wide family of experts, NEDs, trainers, etc. So we work with some fantastic people. And for exactly what I was talking before, when it comes to member retention, that's because we work hard to give them value and give them a good experience, which contributes to our reputation with our existing members. And also when it comes to referrals and relationship, it makes a massive difference. So we look really hard at the touch point by touch point experience that we give our members and work out what is it we can do. Equally, we work really hard in saying there are people who are not members. How can we add value to them? That's why we run free workshops all the time. Yeah, that's why during the pandemic we said, I'll tell you what, you can have us for free because we need to get through that together. That's in line with our purpose, but I'll tell you what, it did our reputation a lot of good. So if you make decisions based on the reputation, if you buy into this concept that people who feel a certain way about you will behave in a certain way and therefore potentially spend in a certain way, then why wouldn't you do it? And I don't know what else is the big differentiator. You can either innovate and rip up the rule book, or you can be better. I don't think there's masses of innovation. So let's just go and be better. And if you will say, what can we be better at? We can be cheaper Or how about giving them a better experience and building a better reputation?
Well, if you look at, for example, Apple, everything, the technology is overpriced, but the experience is there. There's so many brands out there that put a premium just on the service that they offer, or the experience that, and the emotive feeling and the reputation that they hold. So I think as we go into a more turbulent time, digging deep and actually making sure your house is in order and you're obsessing about reputation is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do going forward, isn't it? And one of the things that, like we keep touching on, just obsess about it, and it's part of, along with processes, along with getting market reach. It's just that reputation piece. It happens, especially in the recruitment industry. You've damaged your reputation, or you don't feel like it's at a great point. Is there any coming back? Can you repair it? And if so, how do you do it?
Well, rule number one, you do everything you can not to have a service breakdown. But we all know it happens. So for whatever reason, something will go wrong at some point where we will underdeliver against the expectations. And those expectations might be set by previous experiences or whatever, but we will underperform. So you can absolutely, obviously it's much easier to lose a reputation than it is to earn it. So the earning is it's a marathon. But when things go wrong, if you think, let's go back to kind of the hospitality industry, which is quite interesting, because if you look at things like the reviews you can get on TripAdvisor, I've done a lot of work in hospitality. For even for a five-star establishment, you'll see the odd one-star review where people are having a pop, and that might be justified having a pop, or it might be they're just that sort of person. So what they do in hospitality, they do whatever it takes to turn it around. Do whatever it takes to turn it around without sacrificing their own people and saying. But the other thing I'd say is the reason the obsession with feedback is so critical, because if you think about it, if I'm working with a client, if I'm continually getting feedback and I'm aware about how they're feeling about us, then if they are starting to get a little bit frustrated about something, then I can do something about it. Yeah. Then I can do something about it. But if we're not asking the questions, we're not going to know that we are moving in their eyes from a 9 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. And now I'm really pissing them off. They're just not going to know unless we're keeping really close to them and asking them the question, which is why it's so important. But equally, if we learn from the best businesses and the best industries, if it does go horribly wrong, then if you genuinely care about reputation, then you will do something fairly significant to turn it around, because I think most humans recognize that things go wrong at some point. And I remember when I was setting out years ago in the world of business consultancy, when I left corporate life, I took on a gig that actually I wasn't qualified to do, and I took it on because it was a cool bit of business with a cool company. It was a 20 grand fee, and I was still starting out, so I really needed this stuff. But I took on a gig that I wasn't really qualified to do. I got it wrong. I realized I was getting it wrong. And even though I'd done, out of the 20 grand, I'd done 13 grand's worth of work, I said to them, listen, I'm going to find you somebody better than me, because I can't do this, and I'm going to give you your 13 grand back. Now, that really, really hurt me. I can't tell you at the time, that really hurt me. But the amount of referrals I got from that company and the amount of stories they told, which created trust in the world in which I operate, was absolutely massive. So when we get it horribly wrong, we do whatever it takes to turn it around, because if you value your reputation, then you will not just say, oh, well, that's too bad, we're doing everything else okay. So you obsess about it. And there's lots of ways that you can add value. Lots of ways that you can add value as a recruiter, but you've got to know it. You just got to know it first.
Yeah, I love that. We had a similar agency that we partnered with towards the end of last year. And a month in, we realized we just wasn't quite right for them. And the same thing, we had a bunch of work, but I just ate all the costs. I just said, look, I don't think we're right for each other. And then I just recommended them to the right agency that I thought would be perfect for them. Yeah. It all ended so amicably, because we could have just taken their money for months and months, and the situation would have just broken down to a point where they hate us, we're getting frustrated, and then it does no one any good. So completely love that. This is something that we're trying to do internally, is obsess about this kind of thing, and service is just the highest echelon of importance for us. But you don't always get it right, and it's just figuring out how to do it.
But the other thing, and there is a business that came across not so long ago, who just was in denial about where they were getting it wrong. And the problem nowadays is back in the day, you used to say pre-digital that for every bad experience, 20 people would be told. That was pre-digital. Now we know how word of mouth spreads, the digital footprint we leave, and it's there forever. So it's just not worth it. It's just not worth not turning it around, unless they are fundamentally in the wrong.
Absolutely. I think it's a particular benefit, and imagine, for a marketing department to take this on and champion this, because it can be another return on investment, can't it? When you're measuring retainment, and so showing that reputation plays a part with that, and also improving marketing and product offering, etc., with the reputation you get, and obsessing over that, and having another sort of KPI to measure. When it comes to measuring reputation, how does that look? Because it can just seem very much like just something that's very up in the air. You can get the processes right, you can see things coming in, but how do we obsess about making sure that the needle is being moved?
So again, there are lovers and haters of Net Promoter Score, but I, when I've I occasionally judge the UK Customer Experience Awards, just purely because I'm nosy. I want to learn what people are talking about. But I love it. But every single company on the last time, every single finalist used Net Promoter Score. So what we've got to fundamentally do is think about our business dashboard, and we've got to say, we're obviously going to measure the financials, but let's measure customer success, whether that's client or candidate. And we've got to work out what are the things that are going to be key on this. Now, the obvious ones, the whole reason we're doing this is retention. Yeah. Cross-selling. So what slice of the pie have we got? Relationship. How much exclusive, how many of our clients are exclusive? You might talk about case studies or testimonials or Google reviews. So you just got to work out what really matters. I had a member who told me they were brilliant, and I said, I know you're telling me you're brilliant. I can't find any evidence. They've now got 75 video testimonials about how brilliant they are to represent around the world clients. I've got another one who told me they were brilliant. I said, I actually do think you're really, really good, but I just can't see the footprint to evidence it. So they went for Google reviews. They've now got 400 something Google reviews, 4.9 on average or something. So we have got to decide, if we get this right, this is the question we need to ask ourselves, if we deliver a consistently superb experience that builds our reputation, what do we want to happen as a result? And then you take those things and you measure it.
Okay. And what sort of numbers could you put into a dashboard with this?
What sort of numbers? Where you can put in, whether you use Net Promoter Score or what, that's a number. You can put in the number of clients and candidates that are giving me feedback. You can put, if it's important to you, number of case studies that we've got. We can focus on account penetration, because if we've got a phenomenal relationship and reputation internally with an organization, then that can build. There are plenty of numbers to do that. And by the way, for any finance person that might be listening, you can put some financial ROI in this. You absolutely can. The whole service profit chain was built on that. How much more money we can get. The stats around, there are pretty big stats around things like client retention, customer retention. You increase the bottom line by a minimum of 5%. Sorry, let me get this. You will improve the bottom line by a minimum of 35% if you reduce client turnover by 5%. That is an accepted number that's talked about in this world. So there are big numbers you can put in there. But I think too many businesses don't have it on the dashboard, and they're not looking at it in the same way that we look at the management accounts. And yet, if we get this right, it'll contribute to those management accounts looking a lot better.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Because if it is something that's just part of the core forensic microscope, then you're able to make a huge difference to where your business sits. A little bit of statistics I like to throw about when I'm talking about reputation, that across most of our client sites, on Google Analytics, the most 3 visited pages, apart from home, are the about page, the meet the team page, and the case studies page or the testimonials page. And it just, and we usually find that those are the 3 that get the least amount of love and attention. It was actually mad because people buy from people, don't they? So they want to see who they work with and what the company stands for. But then B, they want to see themselves in the shoes of other companies you've worked with and success stories.
Exactly. And a website is a touch point, isn't it? So why are we not getting feedback about that touch point? Too often it's built, but we don't get the feedback. Yeah.
Perfect.
One test we should all be doing, Haydn, is if you've got 20 people working in your business and you go to them and say, what are we trying to be famous for? And they can't all tell you the same thing, then you've got a problem. Because we've got to be able to articulate reputation, what we're trying to be famous for. And if it's around, let's say it's around expertise or expertise or reliability or professionalism, whatever it is, these are the reasons. If clients and candidates really feel this about you, then they're more likely to behave in a way that's going to work for you. Because it's a feeling thing.
That you said that question to me a long time ago, what do you want to be famous for? And it always sticks in my head, and something we talk about. Fame, in whatever way, in just your niche is, it's so powerful. Having a reputation around something and that fame. But it also goes down to the marketing. A lot of the time you'll find marketing and talking about one thing, and the director actually wants to be famous for, launching their RPO service, talking about culture, and the marketing department are talking to candidates about CV tips that just don't apply for that sort of role. Yeah. So it creates a massive disconnect. So having that question asked and everyone aligned on the same North Star is super important, isn't it?
And if you know what you're trying to be reputation famous for, and if you're customer centric, that means everything we do is about building that reputation, and it makes conversations a lot easier. Is that process, is that technology, is that person, is that marketing communication, is that contributing towards our reputation? Yes or no?
Yeah. That segues nicely onto my sort of final question around reputation. Is that the starting point? So say someone wants to just get started with building the reputation, whether they're the marketing department or a director in their business, how do they get started? What are the first 3 things they should do to get the wheels going?
So the first thing is saying, big picture, does our reputation matter to us as a business? The answer is always yes. It's a bit of a no-brainer. What do we want to be famous for? And as and when we're famous, what will candidates and clients be doing differently? And what would that look like in tangible numbers? So what % of our revenues will come from exclusive relationships? How many case studies we'll have? What feedback score will I be getting? So you build your dashboard and then you start working towards it. Working towards it means just what we're talking about. Let's agree what are the key touch points we need to get right, and then let's start getting feedback. And the feedback will drive the improvement. There you go. I made that sound really simple.
Easy, yeah. but it is simple things, isn't it?
It is. The principles are simple. You just got to really want to do it. I don't think that there is an approach, but I don't think it's complicated.
No, absolutely. Love it. Thank you, Gordon. I really appreciate that. Just a couple more questions before I let you go. You're in such an incredible position with the recruitment network, and you're exposed to so many cool businesses that are your members, but also the expert speakers and the partners you work with. What does the future hold for the recruitment industry from your perspective? Where are we going?
So I'll share with you, I had 200 recruitment business leaders in a room a few months ago. And my question was, we were talking about what the most progressive businesses will be doing down the line. And I think it's a really useful thing. We raise our head above the parapet and say, where's it all going? So a few things, and we're seeing it. We're seeing some of our most progressive members doing this and really having good results through it. Number one is around building communities. Whether that's client or candidate, we're seeing some real successes coming through that. We're seeing people who are genuinely investing in becoming a strategic partner. So I am your talent partner, and we're talking more than just I will find you people. I know it. I'm an expert in talent, and therefore I will add value to your thinking, your decisions. We're seeing some really interesting things around talent intelligence. So what data do we have and we can access that we can give to add value, particularly to our client base? We're seeing some really interesting talent solutions coming through, where we have a different type of relationship based on trust with our client base, and the whole CSR piece. Just thinking about the impact we're having on the community and doing the right thing through ED&I, etc. So we're seeing progressive members who are really doing some interesting stuff, recognize some of this stuff and just go for it and say, this can be a differentiator. This will add value because it'll allow me to stand out. But it doesn't take away the basics of be an experience-led business.
Love it. And just it's not a flogging my own services, but it's just what I've seen. Three of those: the market intelligence, the improving product offering to become more of a strategic partner, and building a community, can really be leveraged and built to start off with a podcast. And I think it's a great starting point to start getting those things put together.
And just one very quick one. In fact, I had on my podcast a guy called Andy Davis the other day. He
client of ours.
Yeah, so I mean, he's launched a new business in data centers. He's now been voted the third most influential person globally. He started off with LinkedIn content, just thought through. Secondly, podcasts, and now he's right at the heart of every community, gets invited to every event. What a brilliant, simple strategy.
One thing that was stuck with me, what he said when we first started working with him, was he said, there's so many data center podcasts out there where they go really technical. I actually wanted to find the stories of the people that are working in the industry, and there's nothing more powerful than a story, and you can really use that to its best advantage. Gordon, just before I let you go, just some quick fire questions. I don't know if you've read them before we talked, but are you ready?
Let's go. Let's try.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Cheese.
I love it.
and sorry, just there is a myth about pizzas. Back in the day, in the 10th century, there wasn't any cheese on them. So some people say that's not a proper answer. Cheese wasn't always on pizza. So yeah, that is a proper answer. And one other thing, if anyone puts pineapple on them, you lose my respect. That's odd.
Yeah, no,
that is odd.
So are you a margarita guy? Are you, or just go for a margarita? Nothing else.
You said what's your favorite? That was my favorite. No, I like other bits.
What's your best productivity technique method? How do you stay productive? I know there's something that's used for you, and you mentored me quite a lot on this.
Ruthless diarization, as in I will put slots in, and I will say no to everybody.
Yeah, and the Einstein, it's not the Einstein, the American president. He had the 4 slot thing, doesn't he? Where you throw something away, delegate it, do it immediately, or plan it.
Stephen Covey, but he wasn't. Yeah. He should have been president. He was that clever.
Yeah. What's your favorite podcast?
The Comedian's Comedian, by a speaker that we had called Stuart Goldsmith. He's a stand-up comic, and he just does podcasts with other comedians. A couple of reasons. A, he's such an interesting guy when it comes to the psychology of resilience, but he also, stand-up comedy is a world I just don't know, and I just really like enjoying his stuff. He's a clever man.
I love it. I'll check that out. Fantastic. What company do you think does marketing the best? And it doesn't need to be recruitment specific. It could be any other business out there in the world.
I like Guinness or Lego.
Yeah, love that. And if you could live anywhere else, where would it be?
France. I lived in France for about 6 years, and all I want to do really is sit on a pavement with a glass of wine, a bit of cheese, and a game of backgammon with my best mate Pierre, and just watch the world go by. That would make me a happy man, Hayden. And you can come along and play too.
Oh yeah, thank you. I would definitely come and do that. That sounds amazing. That sounds like a great time. Gordon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you? And maybe do you want to just tell us a little bit about the Recruitment Network if anyone's listening and they haven't really heard of you guys before?
Yeah, so we've built a community of recruitment business leaders, and we help them get to where they want to get to. We add insights, we help understand best practice, we benchmark performance so you can learn from each other's, and we've built a phenomenal platform which has got everything you need to run a recruitment business. Yeah, it's all about getting to where we want to get to. So just drop us a line at Gordon at the Recruitment Network.